So, for those of you already here, the opportunity to do a guided meditation for 30 minutes. So if you'd like to close your eyes, and with your eyes closed, to bring all of your attention into this body, into this moment, just being here. And notice how you feel physically. When ready, just welcome me with how do you feel? It's a question you ask yourself often. How do you feel right now? And how can you make that more comfortable? So, as usual, we start with our legs. Have you got your legs positioned now? Because when you're mindful, when you're aware, you pick up more information. With that extra information, you can relax the body more. I just move my position of my feet and my knees to get the legs in the most comfortable position I can. And as I develop the mindfulness of the bodily feelings more and more, I can become really sensitive to things like my feet. Again, it's another warm day here in Perth, even though it's in the evening. So I can feel just the skin on my feet. So that tingling, they're still having to secrete lots of heat by a bit of moisture called sweat. I can feel that. I go up my legs and I can feel just the blood through my calves, flowing quite peacefully. I'm not exerting myself. I can feel again the skin so tingling. I go up to my knees. I've got very good knees. I didn't play aggressive sport, so which meant that I didn't really have many injuries. And my thighs. I feel all these parts of my body, caring for each one of them as I scan my attention through the feet and the legs. And I get to my butt. And once again, my bottom is not really well positioned on my chair. So I'm going to adjust that now. And that feels better. I check the legs as well again because I've moved them. But now my butt is happy. Just asking, and then I find out, and then I can act accordingly. It's very simple stuff, but highly effective. And I go to my back, give it a good stretch, makes it feel good, and then relax to the max. As my back goes to a position of ease. I also look at the front of my body, especially intestines, colon, stomach, the lungs, the heart, and many of these other organs which I don't really know too much about, but I can feel them sometimes if there's any ache or pain there. If it's a muscle ache, that just disappears by a bit of stretching and adjusting on my posture. And my tummy feels really good today. I had a good meal at lunchtime, a very good cook. Maybe English food. But I notice as many feelings as possible in my torso. And if I can notice anything there, which needs a bit of relaxation, a bit of care. I focus right into it. Go close to it. Do notice that my lower intestines, there's a bit of tightness there. I just focus my attention there. Be with it like a friend. Sometimes if you meet a friend and they are not healthy or not happy or having a difficult few moments, you talk to them. You're kind to them, smile at them. And it relieves a lot of the stress which they feel. When the tightness caused by stress starts to loosen, then energies in your body can flow to the correct area. And some healing happens. So I notice that part of my lower intestines, which are a bit tight, are now loose. They're feeling good now. Just a bit of care is often all you need to lessen or even overcome physical places of tightness. And then I go to my shoulders and loosen them up. Again, it's focusing on the shoulders. I used to consider them like guitar strings when they're very stretched. They're very tight, and something hits a guitar string which is stretched. It makes a loud sound. Bing! And you loosen the tension on a guitar string until it's so loose, there's no tightness there at all. Something hits it and it doesn't even make a sound. To me, that's a good explanation of resilience. When any part of your body is tight, then something hits it and it wounds it. It hurts it or gives the opportunity for sicknesses to come in. When things are very loose, the body becomes very strong. It's like all those stories which I used to read of like babies falling out of windows 2 or 3 stories up. They didn't really know what was happening, so they were relaxed, and so they hardly got injured. And when you go down from the shoulders, down the arms, just checking everything there. And notice if you've got injuries in your elbows or wrists, just pause there. And give it so much kindness. My elbow, may you be happy and well. May you relax and be free from suffering. I will care for you, look after you. That kindness eases the blockages in that part of your body. So the body's energies can flow easily and freely and do their job of healing you. And you go to your wrists and hands, making sure they're really nice and comfortable. I just move my hands, reposition them. Are you comfortable there, fingers? I'm here to serve you right now, not you serving me. How can I get you to the most comfortable position? Once I find that position, it's like the hands say thank you. Thank you for considering us. And then they're at peace. And by peace, I mean they won't cause me any trouble the next half an hour. Don't need to fidget them anymore. And I go back to my shoulders and neck. And again, just making sure my head is well balanced on top of the head, not too far forward or too far back. And any irritation in the throat. Today, my throat is not so itchy as it was yesterday. But still, I just spend a moment or two on the throat. If there's anything which is itchy there, irritating, give it kindness. Kindness is like the mind smiling at that part of your body. Noticing it, relaxing it, reassuring it, making it feel safe so it doesn't overreact to the causes of that irritation. Things soften and healing is allowed to happen. And I go to the front of my face. It's pretty relaxed right now. Nevertheless, I check around the eyes and the mouth. I really get to know those muscles. When my eyes close, I know if they're tight or if they're loose. And I know that sometimes the emotions inside is what causes that particular type of tightness. It's what configures my face in that particular portrayal. I know how to relax everything. If you don't know how to relax the muscles in your face, trial and error. You soon can feel when relaxation happens, and the muscles feel loose and at ease. When my face is really relaxed, so is my emotional world. And before I leave the body alone, and this is an important part of body awareness, when it is relaxed, it usually feels very pleasant, very soft, calming type of pleasure, the delight of relaxation, everything being put in a good position, which you know you can maintain for a long time. And I look for and eventually perceive the delight of relaxation. Because I've done this for such a long time, the delight is very strong. My body feels good, pleasurably good. And even if I'm not fully at ease, certainly much more at ease than when I started, the delight of peace, of ease, of relaxation is what is important to notice. That always takes me to a much deeper state of relaxation. My mind doesn't want to wander off anywhere. It doesn't want to plan or remember or think, because it's enjoying itself with its body, relaxing to the max. I know that's a great cause of good health. When it's a time, usually don't want to rush so much, but it's only half an hour guided meditation, so now I go inside the body, to the mind, to my emotional world, to my peaceometer. How peaceful are you today? Even though I'm busy today, I've been doing Buddhist works, giving talks, answering questions. It always makes me peaceful. So my peaceometer reading is very low at the moment. Already peaceful. But I know what makes you more peaceful. What makes you agitated. One of those guided meditation exercises, which always helps, is imagining I've been holding 2 heavy bags, shopping bags, one in my left hand, one in my right hand. And the left hand is so heavy. I've been holding it for such a long time, and my arms ache and my shoulders hurt. I look at that bag, and on the outside it's got 4 letters, P-A-S-T. It's the past. In that bag I keep all my memories, both good and bad, all the terrible things which happened to me and all the pleasant memories, but the pleasant memories seem to be down the bottom somewhere. You can't really see them so easily. But all of the negativity of your life so far, you're carrying it around. It's so heavy. In the right hand, that bag has the letters F-U-T-U-R-E written on the outside. It's your future. In there you put so many of your hopes and dreams and your fears and anxieties in that bag, because you've been carrying it for such a long time. That's like your right hand and your right arm and shoulder hurt. And then you focus on the bag in your left hand, your past. Such a simple solution. You just imagine you're leaning to the left, allowing you to lower the bag in your left hand closer to the floor. Closer and closer it goes. And when it meets the floor, all the weight disappears. And that allows you to let go of the bag, to move your hands away from the handle. So your left hand arm can hang loosely by your left side, allowing the aches and the pains, the weariness to disappear. You're not holding anything anymore. You're relaxing by putting down the past. And of course, you then focus on your right hand, still holding the bag of your future, of your fears, anxieties, dreads, as well as your hopes and dreams. And you slowly lower that down to the floor. When it meets the ground, all the burden is gone. The future is still there, but you're not carrying it, you're not holding it. Which means your right hand and arm can move back up to your side, hanging loosely, relaxing, recovering, getting its energies back. And then you look down in this imaginary exercise. You put the 2 bags of past and future on the floor so they're not heavy anymore. And you're standing right between them in this magical, wonderful place called the present moment. A place of rest, a place where you can recover and energize and allow the happiness, which is the nature of your body and mind, to return. Beautiful way of realizing you can let go of the past and the future without any fear, just by putting it down and not holding it, and standing in the place in between, the present moment. How does your peaceometer feel now? Do you find with no past and future to carry, there's nothing much to think about? Just this wonderful moment, unique present moment. It's never been like this before. And you're safe, at ease. And maybe inside you are silent. There's nothing to say inside. You don't have to take notes or figure out what this means. No pressure on you. In life, we're always forced to do something, to plan something, to say something, to think something. Now all that force is gone. You just are. Now. Here. It's usually at this time. You start to become aware of your breathing. It's the one thing which is still moving. So you feel your breath. You don't force the breath. Your breath is like a friend. You don't tell it how fast to go in or how much to go out. Like a good old friend you're going to hang out with, spend time with next. And if you're new to meditation, you can do things like breathing in peace, breathe out, let go. I always prefer just to watch the breath and just be with it. Gives me something to focus on. I learn not to do anything because I'm still in this moment. It's watching the breath happening now. Feeling how peaceful the breath is. Sometimes I compare it to sitting on a beach, just watching the very gentle waves come up the beach and go back again. Gentle rhythm of nature. I'm aware enough that just the breath satisfies me. I don't need to figure out its meaning or its philosophy, or it's keeping a simple awareness, breath coming into my body and going out again. Be quiet for a moment. Almost in timelessness. Getting close to the end of this meditation, unfortunately. How do you feel? What does peace of mind feel like? Earlier I pointed out the delight of physical relaxation, the delight of mental relaxation called peace of mind. So much more enjoyable. When you notice that joy, in Pali the Piti Sukha, relaxation of mind or peace of mind, you notice that your peace of mind goes deeper too. It also means you don't need to think or wonder. It disturbs the peace. You're on the path to some very deep meditations. Joyful. But it's time to start coming out of the meditation. So how does your body feel now? Just watching my mind a moment ago, but now I'm watching my body. Become aware of my hands and my legs, my butt, and all the other parts of the body. Also at ease. And I open my eyes and smile to end the meditation. The peace of mind and the relaxation of the body remain.
Thanks, Ajahn.
Oh, that's good.
So, welcome everyone to the second evening of the free evening online Zoom vaccine program leading by Ajahn Brahm. I forgot to introduce myself yesterday. I'm Freddie, the IT coordinator at Bodhiana International Foundation, BIF, BIF. But for any inquiries, please don't ask me. I'm busy looking at many screens right now, so instead, please ask my co-host, Jean Wong. She is here for any inquiries. And if you're on Facebook, please comment in the live video post. If you have any questions for Ajahn, please ask in the Q&A form. The link for the Q&A form is in the Zoom chat box here and also on the Facebook live post. And some of you may feel like donating. And if you do, we encourage you to donate directly to BSWA, which is the main organization that supports Ajahn Brahm's teaching activities, including the computer and the network he's using now. Or if you want a tax-deductible receipt in Hong Kong, you can do so by donating to Bodhiana International Foundation. We issue receipt for any donation that is over $100 Hong Kong dollars. And the donation links are in the chat box and Facebook as well. I just want to emphasize that, yeah, we are doing this for free and we are not doing this like a money exchange. So you can always choose to donate to us, or you can choose to, well, pay it forward to help other people if you want. It doesn't have to be BSWA or BIF or, well, anything related to Ajahn Brahm. You can just give to any good cause you want to support. And I think that's all for me. So here comes the real vaccine, administered by the great Ajahn Brahm himself. Please, Ajahn.
Thank you so much. And sometimes, as people have told me, that the vaccine for the heart, and in this case the power of the Dhamma, is something which is not actually in the words, but actually where they come from. Because I've given so many thousands of talks over these many years, it's very rare that you find a story or a simile which you haven't heard before. But nevertheless, that when you do hear them again, they're all just, as they say, off the cuff, just without being planned. It's sometimes where they come from. It's one of those reasons why I love doing some meditation before giving the talk, because that gets the mind very kind and very strong. And sometimes it's not just the words, it's just where the words come from, which has the power. And that is a power which can actually relax people, feel safe, feel respected. And it means that they can allow these teachings to go in. It's not just the teachings, it's where I'm coming from. The kindness and energy which I'm sharing with you all. And sometimes the other monks keep telling me, no, you can tell that story again, Ajahn Brahm. No, you can tell that same anecdote again. Because it's just the kindness which accompanies it. It's just like, I don't know what is your favorite meal, your favorite food you eat. Sometimes it's the same food you ate yesterday or ate last week. But sometimes it's just the people you eat that food with and the situation, the kindness with which it's made, that makes all the difference. So sometimes it's the stories, but also the situation, the people, the time, that gives it the extra power. So the vaccine for the heart, it's not just materialistic vaccine. It's not just some other sort of anti-vaccine which you take in and it fights the other vaccines. You don't even look at it in just this materialistic way, but in the spiritual way, the emotional way. I don't know about you, but I've had many cases, just where people are being given placebos. In other words, physically, they cannot understand why any healing would happen. But then healing does happen. If it's not a placebo, like some salt or sugar solution, sometimes it's just some chanting or some prayers or whatever, and people will swear to you that it worked. And you've got to take that seriously. What is actually happening there? Is you understand after a while, it's not just a physical thing, this thing we call health. It's also an emotional thing, which we call health. And that people who have got a very strong emotional immune response also have a very strong physical, material immune response. And when you can't do much with the physical part, certainly the spiritual part is really, really, really important. And of course, that's where monks like me come in, to be able to either to do some chanting. And it's not just the chanting, it's actually where those words come from and understanding what they mean. As I was talking to somebody yesterday, some of the chants which I do, I know the meaning really, really well. And some of those chants are so inspiring to me. There was one chant which I used to do. I say used to do because I found out I couldn't finish it ever. It was so inspiring. It was a way of sharing, spreading loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity, the four Brahma Viharas, over the whole universe. And I just, when I was chanting, I knew exactly what the chant meant. So I was actually doing what the chant was telling me to do. And you get so blissed out that I could never get to the second verse. I was stopping with my eyes closed, just blissing out, enjoying the happiness of just giving loving kindness to others. And some of these chants, got my favorite ones. I remember them, I know what they mean, and I really give such a huge amount of energy. And of course, people feel that. And so never underestimate the power of your own kindness, your own goodness to someone who is sick. Of course, most people know that. They've had experiences of that. But sometimes we focus too much on the materialistic side of medicine and health. You got sick, you need a sort of antivirus, or you need a sort of antibiotics, or you need something. You've broken an arm, let's just stitch it together again. and you sort of haven't got enough of this magnesium or other sort of minerals, we'll give you some more. You can eat it. There's something about that is I always thought was never enough, because so often, this was one of my first memories. Came from a poor home, as I keep on saying. Used to spend a lot of the vacations, holidays, playing soccer in the streets, not in a park. The park was too far away. So playing soccer in the streets. And then you go for a tackle when you play soccer. You end up sort of scraping the skin off your knees. I did that so many times as a young kid. And so I always remember just my knees were covered with scabs, dry blood. I didn't realize at the time I was getting some immunity by allowing bugs to actually get into my system and the system to deal with them. So I wasn't sort of cradled in cotton wool and in a sort of safe environment. I was out there getting dirty and getting scratched. But I always remember when I got quite seriously sort of cut. As a young kid, 7 or 8 years of age, you go running to your mother. My mother, she would, so many years ago, but I can still recall it, visualize it. She would just kneel down on the ground and see the blood, on my knee. And she would sort of wipe it, but then she would kiss it. And I often think of that, and there was like an open wound, and there was somebody putting their mouth full of germs and bacteria. We didn't used to brush our teeth that often in those days. And I never got infected. But what did happen, as soon as she kissed it, that little bit of kindness took all the pain away. She used to call it kissing it better. And it worked. Fantastic. And I took that for granted. I thought that was just the nature of the world. You get a mother or a father or someone kind. You got a wound, an injury, a real injury. You're not imagining it. And someone strokes that area, or they kiss it, or they just give it loving kindness, whatever. It does release the pain, and almost immediately. And it wasn't so many, many years later when I started understanding Buddhism, practicing Buddhism, especially meditation. You read that this is what monks did and nuns did to help people with suffering. And sometimes just a little smile to someone who's going through a difficult time in their life. And just a little bit of encouragement, a bit of kindness, from someone who's, developed that kindness and that softness and that love for so many years. How powerful that can be. And sometimes in medicine we forget that. We've got so many people to look after. If you're a nurse, or if you're a doctor, or any other place in that caring profession, so many people to look after. We haven't got the time sometimes, and that's really awful. Because just spending a little bit of time with someone, a little bit extra time, getting the eye contact, the smile, the gentleness, even be able to hold somebody's hand or touch their shoulder. There's a terrible thing these days that we're so afraid, and for good reason, of sexual abuse or other physical abuse. We can't touch one another as much as we could, or give each other hugs, out of kindness, not out of sort of any sexual preferences or whatever, just out of general kindness. And it's a shame that we can't do that, because that little bit of kindness and compassion, that is incredibly powerful. So powerful that it is like a vaccine in itself. Yes, we do have bugs in our system, but why is it that sometimes bugs are there, but they don't manifest? They don't cause any visible symptoms. Apparently, even with COVID, there's many people carrying COVID, but they didn't register any symptoms. Why? And sometimes that the materialistic science explanation of those is just not good enough. There is a person there who should be sick but isn't. Why? It's because of that emotional part, the mental part. That's where the Buddha kept on saying the two parts to suffering. I think I said this yesterday, the physical part and the emotional part. It's that emotional part is where we can strengthen much more. People say if you want to be healthy, then exercise. Yeah, great, exercise your body. But don't remember to also exercise your mind. Because it's the emotional part which is, for many times, dominant. And if one can have a strong mind, and I don't mean strong willpower, that's not a strong mind, but a strong kindness, softness, caring, those types of strong mind states, if you can develop those, that's what we call a very, very, very strong mind. Why is it a strong mind? I think I mentioned this during the meditation with the simile of the guitar string. If you pull a guitar string very tight and something drops on it, bing, it always makes a very loud sound. If you loosen the tension on the guitar string and something hits it, boom, it's a low-pitched sound, not so disturbing. But if there's no tension on that guitar string at all, you can even hit it with a hammer, it makes no sound at all. And of course, the more stressed you are, the more you are like a tight guitar string. And small things hit you or impinge upon you, and you overreact. Bing! And that's what happens with people in our modern age. They're so tight, so stressed. And small things which would normally you take in your stride, small little viruses which come into your life, small disappointments which maybe your grandparents would take in their stride. For you, that really hurts. You overreact. So learning how to be more loose in your mind, in your emotional world. More loose in your emotional world means you're a very loose guitar string. And so a small thing happens and it doesn't make any noise. What will affect other people does not affect you. And that's with bacteria, that's with stress, with disappointments, with loss, all of those things which create a great physical and emotional damage to people. For you, you're a loose guitar string with high resilience. So that is what happens in our world. We learn just how to be so at ease with life. And of course, we do that through meditation practices, through learning how to relax and rest. When somebody asked the question yesterday, when I meditate, I fall asleep. And I didn't actually say, I should have said, well done. Falling asleep is not a problem in meditation. The problem in meditation is thinking too much and being restless. That's far more of a problem. At least when you're going to sleep, when you're meditating, it is that your body and mind are recognizing you're tired. You need to sleep. So lovely stories about this. One of those stories was when I was teaching a retreat over in Sydney many years ago. People liked my retreats and they wanted to come, and it was so difficult to get the time. A whole 9 days. And even though this lady was working in Sydney, she's one of these people who was working so long hours, she was an executive. So she came to the retreat center in the middle of the night. And I was already asleep by that time. And then she checked in the morning, a little private interview, so I could tell her what to do. And I just, so obvious, took one look at her, very high-flying executive, and told her to please catch up on your sleep. Now you're exhausted. And she understood and had enough wisdom to follow the instructions. So she said that after a little interview, she slept until lunch. She had a nice lunch, and then she slept until the tea time. And after tea time, she went back to bed again. She didn't come to my evening talk. And she basically did that for 2 or 3 days. And because it was people were sleeping in the dormitory, about 4 people to each room, she said the other 3 ladies in her room, they never said anything. There's supposed to be noble silence, but they looked at her and she could pick up that they were not happy with her at all. And she said they were so angry at me. And I said, they're not angry at you. They're jealous. They wish they could catch up on their sleep like that. But she caught up on her sleep for 2 or 3 days. Now, obvious, she was an executive, having to work so hard, think and do so much. But now she could relax. She slept. And after 3 days, interviews, she said, I feel really good now. I feel better than ever. My body feels able to meditate. So that's when she started doing the meditation. After 3 days of catching up on her sleep, now she caught up with everybody else in the meditation retreat because her meditation was easy. Her body was cooperating. And she had enough kindness and wisdom to know when to focus and when just to relax. And after the 6 days, she was, par for the course with everybody else. But then the last 3 days, I was so proud of her. Her meditation really took off. She became a great meditator, one of the stars of that retreat. And I asked if I could tell her story, and of course she said yes, without saying any names, because she had wonderful meditation. There are times when you meditate, your body is exhausted. You work too hard, each one of you. It's a difficult life. So if that happens to you, then just allow yourself to be sleepy. Allow the body to catch up. And then when you go to bed at night, don't go to bed because it's the time you're supposed to sleep. Ask your body, do you need to sleep? Are you tired? And if you are, fine, go to sleep. Other times, if you don't feel tired, then just quietly relax in your bed or cross your legs and meditate in your bed. Learn to work with your body rather than to work against it. And then you find you overcome this very deep tiredness which people have. And because people have that deep tiredness inside, their body is not strong. So when diseases come into our community, like COVID or like other things, we tend to catch those diseases. Our immune system is very weakened. But if we know how to rest our body, of course, our immune system gets very strong. It's not just rest, though, physical rest. It's also joy and happiness as well. If we learn how to develop happiness in life, and of course, I learned that from Ajahn Chah. It was such a relief, to see an Ajahn Chah and see him smiling and happy. In fact, when Ajahn Chah first went over to the West, he went over to United States and went into the Insight Meditation Center in Barre, Massachusetts. And people liked him straight away. It wasn't because he taught deep Dhamma that they liked him straight away. It was because he was smiling. And the people who had come before were very good Burmese monks, but they just did not smile. And that little bit of happiness, with a smile, reassured all the people there. They said, there's something here, a monk who smiles? And of course, you've known me for such a long time. And if you haven't heard this yet, that I'm quite also well known in Sri Lanka. And in Sri Lanka, many of my talks have been translated into Sinhalese and published in books. But they have like a nickname for me in Sri Lanka. And the nickname is the Smiling White Monk. And I'm very honored to carry that nickname smiling white monk, because that smile relieves people. People feel safe. Now, if you are not smiling, you talk to somebody, there's always a bit of fear inside, the people you're talking with. But the smiling is an expression of kindness, of loving kindness. It puts people at their ease. And just like when my mother would smile and kiss my wounds, that relieved all the pain. And it made me relax. And so a little bit of smiling, it actually helps have a healthier body. And that's one of the reasons why I also ask people, yes, you do your exercises, your walk, going to a gym, or whatever age, whatever you actually need, but don't forget the 10 push-ups every morning. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Do them slower than that, though, in front of the mirror. Because that is a powerful thing which increases your health. Even when you are sick with a cancer or with a flu or something, you can always manage a smile somewhere with your fingers. And that does increase your health. It's one of the reasons why, who was that fellow, Patch Adams? The fellow Patch Adams who would dress in a tutu or dress up when he went to visit his patients. I don't know if you have any doctors like that in Hong Kong, who when they go to the rounds of their patients, dress up in funny clothes or a red nose, because just making the patients happy, a bit of joy, a bit of fun, that increases their health outcomes, positive health outcomes, makes it easier to recover. And so this is an inoculation, simple things like happiness. And I don't mean like getting drunk or seeing a movie or something, but actually just doing something which is very positive and joyful, which you can relate to, and which basically cheers you up. So that is part of how we teach and how we increase people's health. But also that comes quite naturally. When you do meditate, and for those of you who just think I just make this up myself, not just Ajahn Chah taught me just how to be happy and share that happiness with other people. It's also in the suttas, in the teachings of the Buddha, that when you meditate, and just the 5 hindrances, the pancha nivarana, get weak, because you're getting into nice meditations, as well as the 5 hindrances get weakened at the same time. These other 2 qualities called arati and tandi also decrease. This is in the Nalakapana Sutta, for those of you who are interested. It's a magic. And those arati means discontent, weakens when you meditate. And also tandi is like weariness. This weariness and discontent get less and less and less and less. And you can see that so often in the world. The people are tired. They're tired of the grind of life. And they're discontent with their job or with their place where they live or their community or the weather. You know that story that when I first went back to London after being a monk for about 7 years, not that long, and then at Christmas time, thinking that's the appropriate time to go back and visit London. Of course, that's the most miserable time in the world. And one of the most miserable places to spend that time, because everything is just so grey. The sun comes up. This is quite a northern place in London. The sun comes up maybe about 10 o'clock in the morning and sets at 2 p.m. and it's hardly much light at all. And so everything is dark and grey, and you never see the sky, the blue sky like I see here in Australia. It's always grey sky, grey buildings, people wear grey clothes, grey hats, grey overcoats, grey scarves, grey shoes. The walls are grey, the floor is grey, everything is grey. And there's that joke which you know is coming, because many of it before, but I can't resist it. And what do English people drink at that time? Oh, grey, miserable. No wonder people get depressed at that time of the year. And so just seeing that for yourself, having lived in time which is bright and green and warm, and seeing the cold and the greyness of life, you can understand just why people will not have good energy, or why people will not get great innovation, insight, kindness, and love even at that time of the year. It takes a bit of energy to actually bring out the positive qualities in things. But when you meditate, sit down and be still, so all the energy sort of comes up in the mind. Is the powerful mindfulness is. Without arati, which is discontent, without weariness, you get positive qualities inside. And I live on that energy. Just whenever you get tired, you go and sit down and meditate, and you really brighten up. And I can share that brightness with everybody else. The joy of peace. And when that comes up, you understand this is actually how you do this. Now you sit down, relax, rest, be peaceful, and allow energy to come up into you. Beautiful energy. I know that sometimes people want more descriptions, and so for want of anything else, just to compare it to having a cup of coffee when you first wake up in the morning. You wake up in the morning, you have a cup of coffee, and then it's not good speaking to you before you've had your first cup of coffee because you're miserable. But after a good cup of coffee, you're happy. You can say good morning to everybody. I love doing that when I'm walking down the street. As many people as possible. And I say, good morning, good morning, good morning. I wanted to actually to show what a Buddhist monk is like. Not just sitting down and not making eye contact with people. It's not sort of not giving at all to people. Just to giving a smile to somebody, a little bit of kindness. And that's something which doesn't cost anything. It's something which I can do. And so and you can see the result of that. The happiness which you spent just by learning some emotional strength. And the weariness, it doesn't matter how many talks which I have to give. It doesn't matter, why do I have to give this? I gave one yesterday. Can't you just listen to a recording? That's a silly way of living. Instead, you give everything you've got to whatever you have to do. And of course, that is just one of those teachings of Ajahn Chah. I don't know if I talked about it yesterday, but here it comes again. About the man from Sydney who went to see Ajahn Chah. I actually managed to actually have a personal piece of advice from him. He thought there's too many people around. He was sitting outside Ajahn Chah's hut, big crowd of people, couldn't even get close to the great master. He'd come all the way from Sydney just to see Ajahn Chah, nothing else. And so he gave up all hope and just went off to do some sweeping in Wat Ba Pong, Ajahn Chah's monastery, just do some sweeping, do something good, until his taxi could take him back to the airport and he could fly back to Bangkok and then Sydney. But then, I remember him telling me this here in Brightening Monastery in Perth. He said he was just sweeping and he felt a hand on his shoulder. And he looked around, who does that hand belong to? It was Ajahn Chah's hand. Ajahn Chah is an amazing monk that sometimes you think, how could he have seen this person or know that he just come to ask a question or two? But Ajahn Chah had got up from his seat and just went over to this man and just put a hand on his shoulder and just gave him some advice. Very simple advice. If you're going to sweep, give it everything you've got. That's all. Ajahn Chah wasn't trying to exploit him. If you're going to sweep, just sweep it properly. Don't just do it. My monastery has to be clean. That's not what he meant at all. It meant that whatever you do in life, you give it everything you've got. full energy in this moment. And don't try and save some energy for later. You make energy by actually putting energy into whatever you're doing. And he understood that. He said he contemplated that all on the way back from, first of all, from Ubon to Bangkok and Bangkok to Sydney, a long time to consider. And he became this incredibly successful businessman. When he was at work, he gave it everything he got into this moment. And his efficiency just went through the roof. When he was at home with his wife and family, he gave her and the kids everything he had. He never thought of work when he's with his family. When he was eating, he ate. He didn't think of work. He didn't have an iPhone next to him when he was eating. He just ate. And so his health improved. When he was resting, he knew how to rest. How many people could go to bed at night, it's time to sleep, and they can sleep instead of thinking about work or problems or difficulties? Instead, you give sleep everything you've got. And when he meditated, he said he meditated, meditate everything he had. When he was meditating, he didn't think about his family or his business or anything else. That ability to focus everything in this moment, that gives you energy. You have more energy. That's what in Pali sometimes the Buddha said, generating energy, more energy than before. And he was a case in point, a very successful man. And he gave that praise to Ajahn Chah. And you can see what I mean here, that sometimes whatever we do, we only do it half-heartedly. We don't give it everything into this moment. We think, oh, I get tired, I've got to do something tomorrow. Or we think about, the problems we're going to have to do later on. Can I do this? Oh, stop thinking like that. Just be in this moment. Another beautiful saying from Ajahn Chah, I think most of you know this situation, but I was a young monk. Remember, I was a theoretical physicist. In my head, I just worked hard on bits of mathematics and sums and equations and differential equations and stuff. I was really good at that. And now you had to work, push wheelbarrows of dirt. I wouldn't mind if we were planning it or working out how to do it better. That was what I thought I could do best. I was an intellectual. Cambridge, the physicist. That's really hard to get into that course. And I was just wasting myself pushing barrels of earth. And after about 6 days of that, because they couldn't decide where they wanted to put it, I got angry. And this monk came up to me and he said to me, Brahm, he couldn't call me Ajahn Brahm, there's only about 2 or 3 years as a monk. Brahm, pushing the wheelbarrow is easy. Thinking about it is the hard part. Oh, if I could meet that monk now, I'd bow to him and say, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you so much. There's very little, a few words of teaching changed so much of my life, got rid of so much suffering. How many times has that happened to you? Doing it, well, I can't do this, I'm tired, it's too much, I can't do any of this. It's the thinking about it is the suffering. But doing it was pretty easy to do. Like giving talks. I don't know why I did this, but somebody asked me, can I do a retreat in Thai? I said, yes. I can't really speak Thai that well. I always give it a try every now and again. Remember the last time I gave a talk in Thai, this was in Perth, some Thai people came over to visit and they asked me, Ajahn Brahm, you were in Thailand for 9 years, can you please give us a talk in Thai? And I said, okay, I'll try. And so I gave a talk for 15 minutes in Thai. Only 15 minutes, not long. At the end of the talk, there were about 50 or 60 Thai people, visitors from Bangkok. They put their hand up, sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. I thought, wow, I can give a talk in Thai. I never thought I could do it. Then afterwards, the leader said, "That was amazing. That was fantastic. That's the first time we've heard a Western monk give a talk in Pali." Because it wasn't Pali, it was Thai. But it was unintelligible to them, as if I had been talking in Pali. That's the way they thought it was in Pali. And so my feeling of being a good Thai-speaking monk went right down to the bottom. But anyway, it was good fun. So what was happening? The joy of what you're doing and giving everything you've got, that increases your immune response to whatever happens in life. And it's not just with sicknesses like COVID. It's not just with disappointments like the government in Hong Kong. It's not just with the disappointment of anything else which happens in your life, the disappointments of things dying, people just getting angry at you. When you learn how to make the mind happier, to loosen the tightness in your mind and the tightness in your body, your resilience just goes so strong. That's why I spend a lot of time teaching meditation. And those people who say, "Oh, I can't meditate, meditation is too hard." I ask, "Well, what on earth are you doing?" Because meditation is just like relaxing. Can you sleep, rest your body on the bed? Hopefully you can. Maybe you might not do as much as you would like to, but certainly you can sleep, and you won't give up learning how to sleep, because that's important for your body health. And just as important for your mental health is learning how to relax your mind. I don't mean just to make it unconscious, to relax it. What I was talking about in the beginning part of this talk about, and the meditation especially, about the nature of peace. And sometimes that's all a person needs to recover from illness. Just moments of peace, of rest, where they're not asked to do anything. There are no expectations. The pressure on us all the time. We're supposed to fulfill some goal, some people's aspiration, improve ourselves. I don't know if you've ever been to self-improvement courses. I wouldn't go to a self-improvement course if you forced me. It's not that I think I'm more than good enough, I can't be self-improved. It's the whole idea of not loving yourself as you are, not being at peace with yourself. What was that story? It's been a long time since I think I've told it to the Biff group, about the man who went to the bookshop and he said, "I want to get some information on self-help. Can you please tell me where the self-help section is in this bookshop?" And the person on the counter said, "Sir, if I told you where the self-help books are kept, it would destroy the purpose. Find out for yourself, self-help." But that's a joke. I don't tell jokes that often on Zoom because I can't see if people are laughing or not. I don't know if you get it or not. But anyway, that's a self-help joke. But it's a symptom of our modern life. Instead of learning how to let things be and appreciate things as they are, and seeing just that you're more than good enough. I often say that too often in life, that we try and improve ourselves and we don't recognize that we don't need to. We're so critical of our failings. We don't see our beautiful qualities. And I still recall just giving a lecture in the Mental Health Week in the Convention Centre in Perth many years ago. And people had never seen me before. Most people hadn't seen a Buddhist monk. They don't know what the heck I was doing, giving them a talk, a lecture. I had them all in tears, crying. not crying because of a joke, but crying out of the meaning of something I said. That was a time when I told them the story of the trees in the forest, a natural truth which no one can argue about. That all the trees in the forest where I've ever lived are always bent, twisted, crooked, damaged. I don't think I've ever seen a perfect tree, one which is dead straight, with no damage on the bark, on the trunk, with all the leaves green. I've never seen one like that. I've seen some come close to them. They're very boring trees. The trees which I love and want to stay with and look at, my favorite trees, the most beautiful ones, they're the ones which are all twisted and bent and crooked, with all the damage on their trunk, this incredible texture of their bark, the holes where branches have been torn off. They're the beautiful trees, the ones which are damaged. When I said that, because most of the people in the audience were the clients of mental health service. When I said that the most twisted, bent, crooked trees are my favorites. Number one, they belong in the forest, and they're the most beautiful. That if you are damaged goods, you know what it's like to be called damaged goods? It's like you don't belong. I don't want to see you. Either emotionally or physically, you don't look the same as others. And I say, no, you are the most beautiful. You are the ones which I like to be with. I mean that. That changes the whole idea of what beauty is and what acceptance is. It's not physical. It's emotional. It's part of the mind, not of the world. People are more important than things. In the world, when you're poor, you're wealthy, you live in a big house or a small cave, you've got lots of money or no money, you're old, you're young, you're you're an Angmo, or you're a Kwailo, or you're Hokkien. Whoever you are, doesn't matter. What is really important is not things, but the emotions, what's inside of a human being. And what's inside of a human being doesn't matter what country you come from. It doesn't matter sort of what gender you are, what race, how old, young, religion, that kindness inside, that beauty inside, that which is not physical, that which is emotional, mind, that is the most important. If we work and strengthen that, this is what we do with the BIF, Body International Foundation, with meditation, with talks, with chanting, with fellowship, with kindness. Those are the things where we build up that emotional strength until we get so strong, so highly vaccinated against the disappointments of life, that we're also physically strong as well. And things hit us, bing, makes no sound. And then we find we're incredibly healthy because we have a strong mind. So that's the talk. I just went over a couple of minutes. Hope that doesn't mind. Now have the opportunity for a toilet break. And after the toilet break, we can have the Q&A session. Is that okay? Ready?
Yeah, sure, Ajahn. Let's let go.
Let go and get some physical peace with emotional freedom.
Ajahn, you can go as well. I've done my letting go.
This evening, I don't feel like it. I'm happy.
Great.
Peace.
Is it hot in Perth?
Yeah, it's very hot. 30, even this evening, it was almost 34.
Wow.
About 5 o'clock. That's really hot.
Oven.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. You get hot days, you get cool days. The thing is that I have a nice cave. Inside the cave, it's always about 21, 22 degrees.
Wow.
You don't need an aircon in there, which is really, really nice. I love caves. And caves are so simple. And you don't have to worry about fires, because a bushfire cave, they wouldn't know about it in your cave. No floods, no noise. It's a great sort of building place and a great place to live. So I think people should have more caves.
But a lot of people have a lot of superstition about caves. There are ghosts, there are dead bodies, there are all sort of stuff inside caves.
Ghosts are nice. They don't take up any space. Ghosts look after you. What ghosts need is a good PA makeover. Ghosts don't do any harm to anybody. And there's a lot of times that people have told me that they have ghosts in their house and they know the ghosts, and the ghosts are fine. And sometimes there's a fire in the house and the ghost wakes them up to warn them. Or sometimes that a burglar is coming in and the ghost wakes them up. So a ghost could be very protective. If, like anything else in this world, if you're kind to them, they'll be kind to you.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's nice to know that. Especially those ghosts who can know lottery numbers. Oh, that's a wonderful thing to have. For those of you who don't know, they're just making up a bit of extra chit chat about that lady over in, where was it, in it's outside of Phuket, in Krabi, in Thailand. She dreamt of this ghost, a real ghost, and the victim of the tsunami. Helped the ghost out, arranging a funeral, and calling the ghost's mother. It's an English girl who died. A very beautiful story, and this Thai girl helped. And then after everything was settled, the tragedies of tsunami time, then she had this other dream, and the ghost gave her a lottery number, which won. She won a fortune because she was kind to the ghost. Arranged a funeral for her and everything. So then it was another ghost story about many of you who've been to Jhana Grove. You know Bianca, and Bianca's ex-partner, he unfortunately died some years ago. That he was a builder, and he was working on an old house by himself, and he heard the sound, "Put your hand under here, put your hand under here." And Bianca's ex-partner, Ron, did that. He just put his hand underneath the house and pulled out this tin box with thousands of dollars inside. The reason they were renovating the house because the previous owner had died. And that's where the previous owner, not wanting to pay money to the government, just stored all his money underneath the house. But unfortunately, that he died before he could let anyone know how much money was under the house. So he told this builder, Ron. So the ghost actually got in the first deposit on his first house. To me, that's a beautiful story. The ghosts are helpful. What does that guy need sort of thousands of dollars for? He's dead. But anyway, this is a note there from Becky, because you were at the talk which I gave to my little local Armadale group. Oh dear, here again. That's the trouble with all these talks which we give online. It usually doesn't, it's supposed to be for the Biff group, but there's so many other people get online as well. And the talk I gave on Tuesday night was for our local group, just 30 kilometers north of here. There's still many other people get online and listen to everything. But no, I'm not tired. I'm good energy tonight.
Yeah, the stories just reincarnate.
Yeah, indeed, yeah. So how are we going for time? Another 5 minutes before we start again with the Q&A. It's also true that even though I'm an old monk now, you do know how to generate energy. And because you do so much meditation, you know your body, you can feel it.
Yeah.
And you know when your body is tired. You know when it needs to take a break. And just how to look after yourself. So many people are so busy working in the world and they forget this body in which they live. It's like they have a car, they never actually look after it. And sometimes they don't know that the oil needs changing or there's no petrol left in the car because they're so too busy worrying about other things. That's just a simile. But when you're aware of your body, you're mindful of your body, you know how your body works. You have all these amazing tools to get sure this body is in good shape.
Yeah, speaking about tools, I remember Ajahn, you said about a simile of using a knife. There are times to use the knife to cut things, and there are times to sharpen the knives.
Yeah, indeed. So a lot of times you work, but sometimes not to work allows that knife to become sharper so that when you do the work, it cuts very quickly. That's the efficiency. The rest is not just ignoring your responsibilities. The rest means that when you do go back to work, you can do it with more efficiency and a better quality of work, being more innovative. I've done that so many times when you have to write an article or answer a tough question about something. You just read it, forget about it. I go off and meditate, I'll do that tomorrow. When you go back to it, you can have a very good answer. It's like it's got into your mind and the mind has been just computing it. You get the best answers when you don't force it, when you relax and rest. Sort of like the mind answers it somehow or other. So some of the best material I've ever done, of which I've ever written, we did it after some really nice meditation. After nice meditation, you've got to write an article, you put pen to paper and off you go.
Great, Ajahn. So let's get going.
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
Oh, here we go. First question. Hi, Ajahn. How do we move on to joy and contentment after the ending? Oh, I can't see where that. How can I put this on the side? Can't get rid of that now.
Ajahn, you can drag the picture boxes to the bottom.
Yeah. That's good. Yeah, thank you. Hi, Ajahn. How do we move on to joy and contentment after the ending of a relationship? I often find myself looking into the past and feel that my heart is now blocked, closed off. Now, after the ending of a relationship, just like the ending of the concert, go back to the concert simile again. You had a wonderful time. You'd rather that concert had gone on for longer, obviously, but it's ended now. And you've got so much of that out of that relationship. So don't look at what's been taken away. Look for what you've had. So that means you've had a wonderful time with that person. And so thank you. You have the sense of gratitude instead of, oh, why did he or she leave now? And your heart is never blocked or closed off. Sometimes people like to do that, put their heart in a concrete box so they never get hurt again. Yeah, sure, you never get hurt again, but you're not alive. Part of life, if you're out there in the world and looking for a relationship, someone to share your life with, you are going to get hurt many times. Yes, you don't. I say this, and I don't know why I say this, being a monk, but you don't know really how to love another person until you've had your heart broken a few times. Well, the heart broken makes it real, makes it sensitive. And after a while, you find somebody and you learn just know how to have a relationship and learn how to not to expect so much, but how to give a lot in your relationships. And the relationship is not about me. It's not about him or her, your partner. It's always about us. You're in it together. And then when you change that it's all about us, not about me, not about you, then that really helps the relationship along. And then, things have ended. You've got so much out of that. And so see how you can make the best use of that. Just like sometimes people who lose an arm or something in an accident, or just use a finger or something, or lose a leg. And it's amazing to see just how some of the people, that doesn't stop them enjoying their life and having lots of joy and contentment. Sometimes that inspires them, motivates them to do more in life. And it's great to see such people. It just shows what's possible. After ending of a relationship, there's other relationships are going to come, of course. So learn from this one and see if you can make the next one better. Okay, next question. Hello, Ajahn Brahm. I have a question. Mind-boggling for me. Oh, actually got mind-boggling for me. I don't think that's the right word, mind-boggling. It should be mind-boggling for a while now. Regarding ourself and existentialism. What is your take on this philosophical issue about anatta and sunyata? And how do we go forward from there when these questions keep arising at several points in our life? First of all, the answer to anatta or sunyata is not an intellectual concept. It's not a theory. It's an experience, which is one of the reasons why, I know I keep saying the same old thing, that the only way to really understand anatta or sunyata is actually to meditate. And the story I usually tell is of the tadpole and the frog. How can a tadpole know what water is? It can intellectualize about water, but because a tadpole lives in the water, born in the water, spent all its life in the water, how on earth can a tadpole know what the nature of water is? It cannot know water no more than a fish can know what water is. However, the difference between a tadpole and a fish is a tadpole changes. It grows these little legs and arms and becomes a frog. And a frog sometimes doesn't know what it's doing, but it jumps. Imagine that. Just if you can imagine you're a tadpole, now you're a frog. You jump out of the lake. One of the weirdest experiences you've ever had. Water has vanished. Something which is always there, so you didn't even notice it because it was always there, is now gone. Now you have the means, the opportunity for knowing what water is. It's the same with a human being. Born in the water, lived all life in the water. How can you know what water is? How can you know what these five senses are? How can you know what the mind is? But one day, in theory, yeah, you can know all the different suttas which mention anatta and sunyata. But does that really mean you understand what it is? Then one day, you're meditating so deeply, joyfully, happily, and the body vanishes, all its five senses gone. You know what it's like not to have five senses. And you're not dead, you're just in deep meditation. And now you have the opportunity, the chance to know what this thing you called a self, this thing which you identified as me, you have a chance to see what it really is. And so much of this you realize obviously it's not. It's an experience which gives you the extra data to realize what anatta means, what sunyata and emptiness is. Things which have always been there are now no longer there, they're emptied out. So these questions keep arising at several points in life. But the answers you'll only get in the experience of deep meditation. You can believe answers you get from monks like me. You can't really know them until you experience them. And this is how you experience them. It's not that hard to do. Be so still that the body vanishes. You can't see when you've got your eyes closed. You're here in a reasonably quiet place. There's nothing disturbs you, and sense of sound turns off. Smell, taste, that's easy to let go of. And bodily touch. Even the breath is so quiet, so even, that it disappears. You get into the deep meditations. They're really blissful. For many people, they're scary, and that's my job. Please don't be afraid of these states. They're wonderful states. Enjoy them to the max. You get enlightened from these states. Don't be afraid. Just to know these things disappearing, they're not yours anyway. And all of your doubts about anatta, sunyata will disappear. You can't miss it. Anyway, next question. Venerable Ajahn, I'm Jane. Since my doctor's diagnosed fifth disease, I listened many Dharma talks and went through deep depression. This Wednesday, my medical examination results got worse. I'm alone and borrowed a lot of money to survive. My mum verbal abuses me. I'm worried. What should I do? If you're worried, of course, sort of the results get worse. Remember, all the things which a doctor does, they notice your body. They examine your body. They look at the physical part of you. And please understand, you're much, much more than the physical part of you. Sometimes what we say, even though the body is sick, don't let the mind be sick. But if you get alone, depressed, brought a lot of money to survive, my mum verbal abuses, please understand that, if it doesn't survive, if you do die, which is, I say, is unlikely at this moment, then you don't have to pay the money back. My mum verbal abuses, that doesn't help. She's probably suffering because she doesn't like seeing you sick. But whatever, don't be worried. That's something you can do something about. If you have a positive mind, did I say that yesterday? I think I did say what's the best blood type, didn't I? Was that joked yesterday? What's the best blood type to have? B positive. I don't know, like Jane, what your blood type is, but if it's B positive, yay! Then allow that positive mind to go into your body, and it's amazing just what one can sort of overcome with a positive mind. But getting worried doesn't help at all. Be hopey. Don't be anxious. Look at the future with a positive mind. And relax. And sometimes people don't realize the power of the mind, which is huge. Much more powerful than the body. Anyway, next question. Before my dog passed away, I fear calls from the vet, and just one call would drain the phone battery. After the funeral, it was normal again. I know fear drains energy, but not from the battery. Does our mind affect inanimate things like COVID-19? Is it because of selfishness, therefore COVID-19 arise? There's always diseases arise. It's not because of selfishness that COVID arises, but sometimes the way we react to it. What are we doing with this? Why is it becoming such a big thing? And for many people, before COVID came, they said, they're so tired. They have enough money, but they're poor in time. Then COVID came along, you can't travel anywhere, and you can't have to work from home. You've got far more time. So can't we understand that COVID-19 has given many of us much more time? And it's, but I can't go out. But why go out anywhere? These days you can order food and other things, but online, and they get delivered to your door. And sometimes for those people who are Buddhists and who like meditating, that lockdown under COVID-19 is wonderful. You can't go out. You have to stay inside. You've got all this time for yourself. Are you afraid of that extra time? Before you complained you didn't have enough time. Now you have time. Why can't you make the best use of it? So I always see the positive side of things. You hear calls from the vet, and just one call would drain the phone battery. That is weird. I don't know how long you're on the battery for, but sometimes the mind does affect the body, and the mind can affect things like batteries. After the funeral, it was normal again. That's so weird, but it can happen. The negativity drains the physical stuff around it. But from battery, yeah. Does your mind affect inanimate things? Yes. That's one of the reasons why if you have a positive mind, a kind mind, sometimes it does affect physical things. And those physical things get better. Happens many, many times. But I'm just trying to think of some of the nice, funny examples. Oh, yeah, okay. Just when I arrived in Norway many years ago, people who picked me up still talk about it, apparently. When I arrived in Norway, I don't know if the plane was late, but I didn't have much time to get to the venue to give the talk. But the boom gates at the airport car park wouldn't open. It was stuck. And so people were in a big queue, people trying to get, there's no other way out except going through the boom gate. But it wouldn't open. And so I got out of the car and I chanted. When I chanted, the boom gate opened straight away. The people, I think I may have converted quite a few Norwegians to being Buddhist, I don't know. It's certainly quite impressive the way it just opened like that. Anyway, yeah, sometimes the mind does interact with matter. Next question. How do we deal with the Buddhist philosophy that there is no soul? How do we come to terms about our existence, on whether or not there is a self? May I know, what are your views on this, Ajahn? Thank you. Please vote for this question. I really hope I can know his answer in need of his guidance. The philosophy, there is no soul. Now, instead of just being a philosophy, get it more like an emotional truth. How can that really be? What is a soul? And one of the nice teachings of the Buddha is, you know a thing by what it owns, by its characteristics. You know a mind. What is a mind? You know it by what lives in the mind. Like you know a garden by the trees, the flowers, the garden paths. That's how you know it's a garden, by what it contains. So what does the thing like a soul contain? What does it own? And little by little, when you meditate, you see that all these things which you think you own, you don't own at all. Even such things as your will or your consciousness, your knowing. You don't own these things. They're not really part of you. Little by little, you realize this can't be me, this can't be me. But you never assume that there's nothing at all. Nor do you assume there is something. It is what the Buddha kept on saying, the third way. It's in between. It's a process. One thing causing another thing. And that comes into existence and passes away again. And that causes another thing. This process, nothing which is inside of it, like a group of beads, but no string going from one to the other. He said, that is how the Buddha described this thing which you call your personality, yourself. And how you come to terms with this, you can't think your way through this. That's why the only way to really understand the truths of Buddhism is the Eightfold Path, which includes the meditation practice. I know I keep on saying this, but in Hong Kong, you're smart enough, you're wise enough, you're getting good enough teachings, and just practice them. Meditate, sit down and learn how to let go and let things disappear. Then you can find out what this soul is. It's like you're asking me, like a fish is asking me, what is this water? You say that water is not always there, but what is water? I've lived in it all my life, but I still don't know it. I've got to get out of it to be able to know it. And that's the way to get out of the water, by deep meditation. You know what water is. Okay, so it doesn't give a philosophical answer. I'll give it an emotional answer, a way to find out for yourself. Because what I say, you can believe it or not believe it, argue with me. believe other monks, other teachings, other philosophies or religions. But what does that really do for you? Just believing what other people say, or learning how to find out for yourself. And if you do the meditation properly, as we describe, then it happens one day. You're out of the water. Then you know for yourself what this thing is. Next question. Hi, Ajahn Donut. Next question. Ajahn Donut, that's my nickname. Hi, Ajahn Donut. I'm taking care of my sick father, but I can't be there for my mum as both of them are separated and I'm a single child, married. I do feel the guilt of not being able to be there for my mum as she verbally abuses. She's also a cancer survivor. How to manage the guilt and find peace in myself. Oh, you're an amazing person that you're taking care of your sick father, but you can't be there for your mum because they're separated and you're a single child but married. I do feel guilt. Don't feel guilt, please, because that's the best you can do. It's amazing what you are doing. I listen to you, what you say then, and say, sadhu, sadhu. It's a wonderful thing. You're married, you're a single child, you're married, but you're still managing to find time to look after your sick father. That's incredible. Well done. Look, when my mother died, I could not be with her, and it wasn't because of COVID. She was over in UK and I was in Australia or in Hong Kong or Singapore. I know how hard I work. You can't be in all places all the time. Did I feel guilty I wasn't there for my mum? Not at all. I was doing the best I could. And I judged myself fairly. You find guilt. You make you feel guilty. If, that charge of guilt was put before a court and judges, that they could decide whether you're guilty or not. How many of those judges would say you were guilty? Zero. A wonderful thing you're doing. So the guilt is not reasonable. Number two, why do people feel guilty when other people say, come on, you're doing a wonderful job? It's because people don't know how to love themselves and are so critical of themselves. Find a little reason to find some fault, and you grab that reason and start feeling guilty about yourself. Instead of, why not focus on the amazing things you're doing looking after your sick father? It's a wonderful thing you're doing. Why not focus on that instead of focusing on what you're not doing? Because you can't do everything. You're not superwoman. So, actually, I don't know if you're a woman or man. It doesn't make matter. You're not a super person. So also, just be more positive. It's one of those reasons why that old simile of the two bad bricks in the wall, which hopefully you all know, I often ask myself, why did that happen to me? I made a mistake. That wasn't the problem. Why did I focus on the two bad bricks and ignore all the beautiful bricks in the wall? For 3 months. It's because I'd been conditioned, you might say brainwashed, just brought up by my society to see all my faults and try and fix up the faults which I had in my life. I was never encouraged to see my good qualities. And so I made a mistake with the war and I felt terrible about the war. And I needed someone else to point out, hey, that's not such a bad wall. Look at all the good bricks in the wall. I could not see the good bricks in my wall myself. Someone else had to point them out to me. And then I realized that was true. So you're seeing a couple of bad bricks in your wall and feeling guilty for it and not looking at the beautiful bricks in the wall, what you have been doing. You're married, you've got two parents who are separated and you can't look after both of them. But what you are doing is amazing. So I see your beautiful bricks in your wall. It's a beautiful wall. So well done. Next question. Dear Ajahn, both my spiritual life and my partner are important to me. I feel like one day in the next couple of years, I want to make the decision to either try and ordain or to fully commit to my partner. Can you give me any advice on how I should approach this decision? I feel at a crossroads. So if you're at a crossroads, then wait for the bus to arrive. You find a bus, Because on the front of buses, they give you the place where they're heading to. You know, the bus might be saying it's going to Kowloon. It might be going to the airport. It might be going to I've forgotten all the places in what's that with a big race course in the northern borders the Chinese university is.
Is that's just the race course in Shatin.
Shatin, yeah, in Shatin, yeah. I was going to Shatin. But you can see on the front of the bus, and then you make a decision. Should I get on that bus? Or should I wait for another one? So then there's always another bus coming. So you don't need to make decisions right away. So just leave that decision and then see which one you really want to take. Make that decision afterwards. But your spiritual life and your partner are both important to you. Fully commit to your partner or try and ordain. You have to talk it over with your partner because it's not your decision anymore. It's the decision of you and your partner. So, and then see how they feel about it. And if you do ordain, make sure you give it everything you've got. If you do decide to stay with your partner, give it everything you've got. Life is always a number of crossroads you have to face in life. You make the decision best you possibly can. Get the information, wait for the bus until you see where it's going, whether you want to go on it. And then you make your decisions. Dear Ajahn, how to deal with our emotions in our hearts, then how to reduce negative emotional turmoil in our hearts in order to prevent doing stupid and evil deeds. Thank you so much, Ajahn. So you deal with emotions in the heart. Remember, there's two types of emotions. There's positive emotions. I like to list the positive emotions now because sometimes people say you're emotional and it's a bad thing. Now, I'm an emotional monk. I love peace. And I just value and indulge in peace a lot. I love kindness. I love giving. And the feeling of giving, chaga it's called in Pali. And these are all emotions. Now, even like the piti sukha, which comes up in meditation, the joy and the bliss, that's an emotion. And you find that developing deep meditation is developing your positive emotions and using those rather than your intellect to carry you deep into meditation. Intellect can take you so far. There's too much thoughts, emotions. You feel your way into the deep meditations. And the negative emotional turmoil in our hearts, again, you understand it first of all. And a lot of times people understand the negative emotional turmoil, especially like anger, negativity, and anxiety, but most of that is actually dealt with in meditation. You're aware, mindful, you understand what's going on, and you realize you don't have to always encourage the negative turmoil in your mind. But why do people have that negative turmoil? You know, we enjoy it. People enjoy being angry. Sometimes they get a high on being violent. Sometimes they shout at somebody and they feel they deserve that and you feel good about it. And it's in noticing that pleasure which comes from the negative emotions, but then also noticing the bad result which comes later from the negative emotions. Negative emotions, they're very like a natural high and a lot of energy at the time they manifest inside of you, but they drain energy so fast that after a while you feel just so exhausted having gotten angry at somebody. And also you feel, what did I do that for? So this is one thing which happens, emotions in our hearts. We understand them. We encourage the beautiful ones. Now, things like kindness is much more powerful than anger. You know, I can shout at monks to try and get them to do something. I don't do that, by the way. But I get much more out of the monks which I live with when I'm kind to them. Instead of saying, oh, you're too lazy, you should get up and meditate some more today. So, if you're really tired, have an extra hour of rest. But if you want to meditate, that'd be a really wonderful thing to do. You get people motivated by it. And that way they meditate more. And so you can encourage people with kindness much more than you force people with anger and fear. That's even in business. If you're a strong boss and shout at your workers, then they may behave when you're watching them. As soon as you've gone off for the day, then they just relax. They don't want to work. But if you inspire them and they realize it's a beautiful thing which you're helping them with, and you're trying, we're all in this business together. If the business collapses, then we all lose our jobs. Then if you can motivate people, then a lot of times that you don't need to shout at them. The negative emotions don't really have a usage at all. But the positive emotions are what drive our success and happiness and growth in life. Okay, next question. Ajahn, how should I live with the insurmountable grief embedded in me? First of all, grief is not insurmountable. It's not embedded in you. So even just what you say there is just, really just saying things that are seemingly insurmountable grief inside of you. For witnessing countless gruesome deaths during night shift these 2 years as a medical student in Indonesia, my friends also realized somehow whenever I'm on shift, I always receive the unusually bad, severe cases that are fatal. Okay, but what you are doing, never call it insurmountable. That's actually giving up the fact that everything is surmountable, that some of the grief or the pain which you've seen in others can be a great incentive to learn, to grow. And you may not be able to cure anybody, but you can always care for people. And sometimes you witness countless gruesome deaths during night shifts. But have you ever given care and kindness to some of those gruesome deaths? Just looking in a person's eyes when they're in really deep pain and just giving some comfort to them, the fact that someone's there and they haven't been abandoned. And you're a medical student in Indonesia, but you're not always a medical student. One day you're going to graduate, and everything you've learned, in those night shifts of gruesome deaths, yes, you know that this is what life is like. And even if you only help 1 out of 1,000 people, that's important, especially for that one person. That's always the case, that as a medical practitioner, you can't always cure people. If you think curing is your main job, you're going to always feel grief and always feel that there's something wrong with you, that you can't cure everybody. You can always care for people. And caring is your main job as a medical student, as a medical practitioner, as a specialist or whatever. People are in pain. They know they're going to die. But somebody comes and holds their hand or just smiles at them. They don't react with fear when they're already just overly afraid. And you give some kindness and care to them. That's an incredible, great gift you give. So the last hours or minutes of their life, they get encouraged. They feel some peace. And you cause that peace. So you're on shift, you always receive the unusually bad, severe cases that are fatal. Sometimes you don't always receive those. Sometimes you receive the good cases as well. Once you learn how to react to those gruesome cases, if you're still a medical student, they probably won't come much more anymore. You've learned the lesson, how to give kindness rather than cure. Okay, next one. How do you deal with the constant pull of dopamine activities? Many times when I sit down to meditate, I keep thinking of looking at media, video games, and the pull is too strong. It stops me from focusing on the meditation. How do I deal with the constant pull of such activities? I don't have those activities. Okay, you meditate, you think of looking at media, video games, etc. Pull is too strong. The pull is strong. Don't call it too strong. And every now and again, you just do stop from looking at the media or video games. You just stop and you focus on the dopamine generating meditations. In other words, when you learn that meditation is joyful and fun, it's got a particular type of pleasure. And I've been focusing on that in the guided meditations I've been teaching. The delight of deep meditation, or even just ordinary meditation, is delightful. And I focus on that instead of just learning how to focus on the breath, learn how to focus on the delight of peace, and then the delight of breath. And once you have the feeling of delight, the meditation is so much more fun than looking at media or video games. That's how monks meditate. Remember, I had a good job, I had a good education, I didn't have to be a monk for the rest of my life. Why on earth did Ajahn Brahm decide to be a monk for, I don't know, almost 47 years now? Because I'm enjoying every minute of it. When I'm tired, I know how to close my eyes and feel the relaxation of the body and the delightful feelings of that. How to sort of go deeper and feel the delight of the mind, which is at peace and stillness. So the video games, media, the most beautiful sound is silence. I mean that, it's delightful, it's powerful. Once you start to notice those sorts of delights, then you're not interested in the media and video games anymore. They don't pull you at all because you've got something much better, more delightful, more productive. So that's actually how we stop that. We stop the constant pull of those activities by getting a more joyful activity of meditation. Next, Ajahn, do you think better to have a partner in life or live alone? I feel that having a partner or child is just building another attachment. Yeah, it does building another attachment, but sometimes that people don't have much choice. Sometimes that partners happen in life. I know that from my own life. I didn't really know too much about Buddhism when I became a Buddhist. I was 16. I was young, fit, healthy, handsome, I suppose. When I was young, I had girlfriends. And it was just, things never really worked out. That, you committed to the longest girlfriend I had was about 6 months. That was reasonably long. But, it didn't work out. So for me, I was just reacting to what happened in life. And of course, when I became a monk, I told everybody, all my friends, I'm only going to be a monk in Thailand for about a year or 2 years, and I'll come back, and I'll go and get married, build a life. And for me, though, as soon as I became a monk, I realized that's what I was always meant to do. And I enjoyed every minute of it. So for me, it was much better to live alone. But for you, it depends on your karma. It depends on what you really, 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 really want to do. I'd always encourage people to try to live alone, see how you feel. Feel having a partner or child is building another attachment. It is. It's a commitment. But it's also a letting go as well. When you're living alone, you can do what you want whenever you want. When you have a partner, you're limited to what you can do. You have a child, you have to sacrifice your life for that child. It's an attachment, yes, but it's also a sacrifice. So you have to make that choice. Next question. Dear Ajahn Brahm, it is said that it is very important to practice Buddhism in a community, e.g. like a Sangha, but Buddhists do not often have the social network like say Christians. How do you think we lay Buddhists can find our community? There are some very good communities, just like the BIF, the Brightening International Foundation over in Hong Kong, and it'd be great. You don't always have to have a monk around to have a meditation session together in each other's houses or to have Dharma discussions. The same over in Singapore, the Buddhist Fellowship. They just meet together in Malaysia. What's it called? The BGF, the Buddhist Gem Fellowship. So many places they do make communities. I don't know where you're talking from, what country. There are many, many, many communities all over the world. And some of those communities, they don't follow what I say. They make their own little communities up and they listen to talks, they meditate, they discuss, they have friendship, have fellowship. So it is important. And those social networks, they do arise, they do grow. So they're there, it's just finding them. Dear Ajahn, how to handle the bullying from a husband who always thinks he's way better and he knows more. He often say me that I'm not good and he's disappointed to me for whatever I did. He always gives me negative comments. I'm tired and helpless. Ugh. Why did you choose that guy as a husband? But anyway, probably when you did choose him, he was much more better behaved to you. But I don't know again the country where you're from. Bullying from a husband, sometimes that is illegal in many countries. And you can almost force him to get counseling. You say you're not good, he's disappointed in me for whatever I did. He always gives me negative comments. I'm tired and helpless. I don't know if you have children or not. Sometimes the best way to talk to that children, sometimes the best way to talk to the husband is not directly, but through the children or through your husband's parents. So because the wife sometimes can't talk directly to the husband, because he knows how to reject all of that. But if you talk to your children and say, look, please talk to daddy and don't talk to me like this. They talk to the parents and get the parents on side. They want you and him to sort of somehow be able to live more in peace and harmony together. So how to handle the bullying? First of all, if you can, try and find a means, either through your husband's parents or through your children, to let the husband know that what he's doing and it's threatening the marriage. Even if it's violence which he gives you, then please go to the police. That's illegal, and you need to be helped, and you need to feel safe. And some of the best thing to do is marriage counselling, if that's possible or not. And if none of that works, there does come a time when you just have to leave him and have divorce. It's painful, it's disappointing, but sometimes in the long term, it's the only way you can survive and have a happy life. Bullying is always causing so much problem in this world. Anyway, what is a Buddhist way of helping a loved one who is hurting herself by using alcohol and drugs on a daily basis and also cutting herself? Like a good psychologist is obviously good. The person hurting themselves using alcohol and drugs and cutting themselves, they don't really feel they've got much self-worth. The little thing is always praising them, telling them just how much you love them and care for them, how much you value them, because somehow they need to know that they can value themselves and they can care about themselves. They don't need to destroy themselves. When the people feel there's nothing worth anything inside of themselves, and that's when they do self-harm. Telling them off, punishing them doesn't help at all, because that just proves that they're not worth anything in this life. But somehow giving them some love, some meaning, so they can respect themselves and find something good inside of themselves. That's a marvelous thing to do. Sometimes the very simple procedure of, I wrote about this before, I said this before, getting a piece of paper in front of them, the two of you together, and writing a line in the middle, their name on the top, on the left-hand side of the piece of paper, all the reasons why, all their faults, all the things which are wrong with them. Write it down on the left-hand side. They write it down. It's really easy for them to do. Then on the right-hand side, all their beautiful qualities, their worthy qualities, which makes them a very lovely human being on the right-hand side. And they need a lot of encouragement for that, to see their good qualities. But with help, you can do that. When I did that with a prisoner in jail, he started to say, I've got no good qualities. That's why I'm in jail. I said, you must have done something good today. And I remember this because it took about 5 minutes, but I finally got it out of him that he'd given a sauce to the prison cat that day. Put it down! Fed the cat this morning. It's something good they did. They didn't have to do that. And so they put that down. And put something else down. The second thing came, a few seconds later. And then once as they say, the down wall was broken, was cracked, all these other wonderful things they'd done came out from them. They filled the right-hand side of the piece of paper with all the beautiful qualities, all the things they could be proud of. And then I got the scissors and cut the piece of paper in half. All their bad qualities I threw in the rubbish bin, and all the right-hand side with the good qualities. I told them to first of all photocopy it, then laminate it, then put it everywhere in their room, in their bags, wherever they were, so they could always be reminded of their good qualities. Because whoever is hurting herself, using alcohol and drugs or cutting herself, they don't realize their beautiful qualities. They're trying to destroy themselves. Anyway, next question. Dear Ajahn, I was raised Christian, but Buddhism feels like home. I practiced it for about 10 years, but still struggle with the idea of faith in Buddhism. What does faith look like in Buddhism? What is its role? I worry that I don't have enough because I'm still learning. Thank you. Instead of calling it faith, call it like confidence, trust. So in other words, you don't know everything, but what you found out so far feels correct. But to take it further, the simile I use about overcoming doubt and the role of faith, trust, confidence in Buddhism, and that is that when I was lost up in the mountains in Scotland, just innocently walking alone, a beautiful day, and the clouds came in so fast, and I was on top of a mountain roughly, and the mist came in so quickly and I couldn't see even the hand stretched out in front of my face, a very thick mist. And I thought I could find my way down that mountain. But I literally, I'm not exaggerating, I came one step from falling over this cliff and dying. A very steep, deep cliff. And even I wasn't killed falling over that cliff. I was injured. I'd be there for days before someone found me. So anyway, I was very scared, stuck in the mist on a mountain. I didn't know how to get down. Didn't have any compasses, no mobile phones in those days. So I stopped for a while and I thought, how can I get down this mountain? And maybe because I was a scientist, I thought, well, water always travels downhill. So I found a little stream, followed that stream, and it joined another stream and got bigger, and it wound backwards and forwards, zigzag, and I would follow that stream, and I would not take any shortcuts. I'd follow that stream, and that's the way I would go. Because I knew that water always went downhill. And it went down, down, wiggled this way and moved that way, and eventually you came underneath the clouds. Once I was underneath the clouds, I could see where I needed to go to get back to the hostel where I was staying. That saved my life. But I also used that as faith in Buddhism. Faith that water, the water always goes downhill, so follow that water. If you're practicing and it's leading to more peace, more mindfulness, more loving kindness, more feeling at ease with yourself, all those positive qualities of spirituality, if it's leading to those things, then follow it. You don't know exactly where it's leading totally, but it's leading to good qualities growing. The good qualities like kindness, ease, health, mental health, if all of those things are improving, then keep on going in that direction. When you go underneath the cloud, that is a simile of becoming a stream winner. You know where you need to go. It's clear to you. You don't need faith anymore. You have vision, knowing. So that's what we do in the meantime. Whatever creates more peace, calm, kindness in your life, follow that path. Next question. If being alone is okay, or is it important to have a community around you? Both are okay. Depends on which one you prefer. I always preferred being alone. But now look at me. I always got too many monks and nuns and lay people all over the place. So I love being alone. But I also love being with others as well. Important to have a community around you. If it's possible, fine. If it's not, fine. But either is fine. Dear Ajahn, how do we stay true to who we are in a world where we're always expected to be more and more excellent? Lately, I've been thinking it's okay to be mediocre and there's no need to be the best, but I'm afraid of missing out on life and not actualizing my potentials. Thank you. No, be mediocre. The reason I say be mediocre is the best because the Buddha taught the middle way. So the middle way is the best. I say that to kids because kids are just, they're pushed by their parents always to excel. They're doing well. I can do better. You got an A. I can get an A+. I got an A+, but you get an A+ in another subject as well. And they get pushed so much. And I tell kids, so what does an A mean? They get an A. What does that mean? I say A means arrogant. They get an F. What does F mean? F means fabulous, fantastic. In other words, I rebel against this judging of kids. And I tell the children that if you're in the top 5% at school, or in the bottom 5% at school, you're not good Buddhists. You're not good Buddhists if you're in the top 5% or the bottom 5%. Because Buddhism, we always say the middle way is the best. So if you're in the middle in school, then that's the best. I get a lot of kids cheering me when I say that. And I get a lot of the parents looking at me, Ajahn Brahm, be quiet, don't say that. But how can you be more and more excellent? That's too much stress. I never try to be more and more excellent. I relax. I never try and improve my meditation. I just stay where I am. Then it improves. Then it gets incredibly deep. When I try, I get stressed. When I stop trying, I get really peaceful and powerful. It's not okay to be mediocre and there's no need to be the best. Being the best is the worst. Missing out on life and not actualizing my potentials, who knows what your potentials are? Life is a series of unexpected events. You don't miss out on anything. Ajahn, are such things as soulmates or twin flames real stuff? Ha ha ha. Because my friend and her husband really experienced similar things while being brought up in different countries, and some have the most similar minds, thought process I've ever seen. And they ended up together. Ha ha. That usually, I would say that I actually agree with you. Because I've seen a couple of partners and they're almost inseparable. One of the weirdest cases, this is not giving you a wise answer, just from anecdotes, experience. One of the weirdest cases of this couple who came to a retreat with me. They were both Buddhists. They met in Europe, and their meeting was really, really strange because she was at some sort of reception or something for work or conference or whatever. And then she looked at him and walked right over to him. They'd never, ever met in their life before. And they never had any cards saying their names. And she said something, your name is David, and the surname as well. She said, this is really weird, but I know I'm going to marry you. And she'd never seen him before. He had never seen her. But she knew his name out of nowhere. And she said, I'm going to marry you. And of course, he had the same feeling to her. And of course, they were really inseparable. It was weird to actually to see that whole 9-day retreat. It was so hard for me to keep them apart. You're supposed to keep the precepts when you're on a retreat, but this couple, they were always together, talking. They were supposed to be keeping quiet. But when they told me exactly what was going on, sometimes you realize it was a special case. But that is really weird. Most people aren't soulmates, are not twin flames. So most times that's wishful thinking. A lot of times when you have any relationships, it lasts for a while, and then you have to work at it to keep it going. Very, very rare that these are people you've met before in the previous life, and you come together again and you feel at ease with one another. One of those other stories, which I often quote, is of the Hollywood actor, not Tarantino, but who was the one he played in Greece? I forget his name now. Famous John Travolta. John Travolta, he married this Australian actress from Adelaide called Kelly. And I remember reading the article about how they met. That Kelly she was in Adelaide. This was John Travolta over in Hollywood somewhere. And Kelly went to the screening of the movie in the old movie theatres of Greece. And she saw the photo of John Travolta on the outside of the movie theatre. And she turned around to her friend and said, I'm going to marry that man. A totally ridiculous thing to say. She said, I'm serious, I'm going to marry him. And she didn't even know him or even know how to meet the fellow. She was an ordinary girl from Adelaide and he was a Hollywood actor already. But of course, somehow or other they met. And it was one of the most stable marriages in Hollywood. And it's only ended recently when Kelly died, I think, from a cancer. But they were so close together. And the way that she said to her best friend, I'm going to marry him. And she was serious about it, and she did it. Anyway, so that's obviously, I understand that as they were married in their past life. Next question. Dear Ajahn, should we lie if not doing so would cost us our life? Should we choose to die honorably? But how can we practice if we have lost our life? You get reborn again. So, should we lie if not doing so will cost us our life? There was he was a philosopher, an ethicist, I think in Amsterdam during the Second World War. And he was hiding Jewish citizens inside his own house. It was the obvious thing to do because if the German military police found those Jewish people inside the house, they would be sent to Auschwitz and executed. So he helped hide them. But sooner or later, the Gestapo police came to his house, knocked on the door, and just asked the question, now, are there any Jewish people in your house? And he had this choice. If he told the truth, the people he was hiding would die, and so would he. If he lied, he'd be breaking his ethics, which he held incredibly strictly. He found a solution. He opened the door and said, go and have a look for yourself. He said it with such kindness that the two officers, they said, "Oh, thank you very much, we don't need to." And he closed the door and they went somewhere else. He didn't show any fear. I remember reading that story, but sometimes there's a third option. Do we tell the truth or do we lie? Maybe there's a third option. Hi, Ajahn. Some impressions of having an agreement with someone before I was born. Is there such a thing as pre-birth agreements? Maybe previous agreements in the previous life, which somehow you remember. But pre-birth agreements, I don't know if they're legal. They will stand up in a court of law. Anyway, but maybe previous life agreements. I have friends who get bullied at work. I'm tempted to speak up. However, one friend told me that I shouldn't. It would be not work anyway. It would make matters worse, or they might even lose their jobs, but they are suffering now as well. Plus, as a quiet bystander, I feel guilty what to do. If your friends get bullied at work, and then obviously ask them and take what they say as really, really important. If they don't agree with you speaking up, then it's not going to have as much authority. And especially that if you feel it's going to make matters worse, then again, that's not the outcome you want. However, whoever is doing the bullying, sometimes keep notes, keep records, and maybe you will have enough evidence to make a complaint which no one can argue with, and which is obviously founded on the evidence, and maybe that will be taken seriously, and the person who's doing the bullying can get counseled and realize there's much better ways of practicing leadership than through bullying. But don't feel guilty. Again, I don't know why so many people feel guilty, because that's one of the things I remembered inspired me about Buddhism. You didn't really have a sense of guilt. You make a mistake, you learn from it, you grow from it, you let it go. You don't carry around your mistakes from the past. You learn from them. If you can't learn from them, you just let them go. Dear Ajahn, our son is 21 years old. He told us recently that he is gay. How to deal with this? Thank you. The Buddha said that may loving kindness go to all beings. May all beings be happy and well. It doesn't matter whether they're straight or gay. Son is 21 years old. He recently told he was gay. Please say, welcome. You're our son. The door of our heart is always open to you. Being gay is not a choice. It's just recognizing who you are. Now, I am not personally. I was always heterosexual. And then I became a monk. There's nothing wrong with being gay. This is a 21st century. This should have been accepted years and years and years ago, centuries ago. 21 years old, he is gay. That's not a problem at all. What is a problem is whether he's a good heterosexual or homosexual. It's just how you deal with what you have. There's nothing wrong with being gay. It's just who he happens to be. So please tell your son, thank you for letting us know you're our son. We love you as much as ever. And how can we help you and be of service to you so that you never feel ashamed and that, this is who you are. Well done. You're gay. You may not know this, but there's about 2 or 3 monks in Bodhinyana Monastery who used to be gay. So they were men, they were homosexual, and they wanted to become a monk. And I said, well, can you handle it? And can you, let go of your sexual desires as a monk? I said, well, give it a try. And they did it, and they made a wonderful job. And I'm so proud of them as really good monks. Of course, they can't practice homosexuality as a monk, the same way I can't practice heterosexuality as a monk. We're celibate. It's just got such beautiful qualities inside of them. So your son is 21 years old, nothing to worry about. Wonderful. I don't know what country you live in or what the laws are in those countries, but I don't know why that governments feel they should discriminate against gays and lesbians, transgenders, and everything else. This is who people are. And so they should be welcomed, protected, loved like every other human being. If that was my son, I'd say, well done. Nothing wrong with that at all. What took you 21 years to tell us, son? Anyway, maybe the last question. Hello, I want to ask, is it okay for me to not have a Buddhist funeral when I die, with the mantras and all? And does it really affect me in the afterlife if I choose not to have any funeral rites done? But, where's it gone? But it's said that the mantras will calm the deceased to accept death and pass on. No, once you're dead, you're already half passed on. So if that's what you choose, fine, wonderful. Because the mantras, etc., is not really for the person who's died. It's for the family who are left behind afterwards. When you die, you leave your body. Sometimes people leave the body and get reborn in the heaven realm or a new life as a human being almost straight away. Some people linger around for a while as a ghost. It's not really a ghost, it's just in a mind-made body for sometimes up to 49 days. And that's the time that you're wise enough to realize the mantras and other stuff is not so important to you at all. It's only important to the people who are left behind. So it is okay if you to have a Buddhist funeral and not have a Buddhist funeral with the mantras and all. And people have all sorts of different funerals, and they're usually tailored to what a person needs rather than what the priest thinks you need. And it won't affect you at all. You'll have a wonderful afterlife. So anyway, I'm getting tired now, so I'm struggling to find my words. So thank you everybody for listening. It's now just 9 o'clock. So is that enough for tonight?
Yes, thank you, Ajahn. Sadhu,
Sadhu,
sadhu. I have to shout
Okay.
it out because I'm representing everyone.
Okay, great. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
wonderful.
so that's it for today. That's the vaccine for today, I would say.
Yeah.
And tomorrow we have another vaccine at the same time as well.
Yeah.
And so
I thought you were only supposed to have COVID vaccine twice.
oh, are we? But we are, yeah, this is vaccine for the heart, so we can have
Okay,
it.
vaccine with the heart. That's different. Okay.
Yeah. So the Q&A form is still open and the link is still the same. And so that's it. Have a good night or good day or good evening, good anything. And
Okay.
see you everyone tomorrow. Sadhu.
Okay. Good night, everybody. Have a nice evening. Bye.
Bye bye.
Oh, bye.